Hello and welcome to this pit stop for Robin Hood and the Merry Men, designed by Ivana and Vojkan Krstevski, Toshevski, Maja, Matovska and Martyn, Poole, and published by Final Frontier Games. In Robin Hood and the Merry Men, each of the players is going to take control of one hero and a bunch of merry men, and over 5 rounds they're going to attempt to thwart the plans of Prince John. All the meanwhile, the game will be fighting back against you, and the game can win by emptying any of these roads completely of pennies or having the village overrun by guards. If that doesn't happen, then at the end of the 5th round down here, whoever scored the most victory points is going to be the most victorious and the most famous of Robin Hood's gang. Now, the first phase on each round is the Merry Men phase, in which players are usually going to have 3, possibly 4 merry men to lay out in order to choose actions from around the board. Now, whenever you choose a merry man to take an action, you're going to have to play one of these merry men cards from your hand. They can be played to the passive or active side of your board. When you play them to the passive side of the board, that means you're just going to take a basic action with that merry man. So in this case, I can go to any of these resource gathering areas, and by going there, just get 1 resource. For example, coming here would just get me 1 tool. I can also go up here and claim a weapons dice to use later on in the hero phase, or come in here and attempt to rob the rich, which is a little game of chance in which you start with 3 skills dice, you roll them. As long as you get 1 success, you can stop and claim a loot token or carry on with 2, try and get a success, and then try and go again with 1. In that case, I would get to claim 3 loot tokens, and what they're going to give me is a variety of basic resources and money as can be claimed elsewhere on the board, but possibly getting lucky and get all of them as I just did there. Now, if I'd failed in that endeavour, I would have ended up having to go to prison, but I can be able to protect myself from doing that by playing a card. Because when you play cards onto the active side, now these cards are going to go at the end of a round, but your passive ones won't, which we'll come back to in a second. But they will give you an extra bonus to the action you're taking. And if I had used this card as for its active, by going here and robbing for the rich, I would have to make sure there's at least 1 free hideout. I put my merry man in the hideout and you get whatever bonuses on the card. So in this case, I would be completely free from being captured. I wouldn't have gone to the prison even if I had failed that roll. Now, before we move on completely to the active side, for these passive cards, there's a couple more things you need to be aware of. When cards are in the passive side of your board, you can use them rather than cards from your hand to become active cards. So you can save up actions over there. Also, some of them have got a small amount of victory points, which you can claim at the end of the game if they're still in your passive pile, which has a maximum of 6. And there's a little set collection for having cards of the same artwork together at the end of the game, which can boost your scoring. Now, when you do go to the active side, if you go to one of these resource gathering areas and use an active card, it's generally just going to let you claim more resources. So by coming here to this forge, rather than claiming 1 tool, I could claim 2 using that active card. Now, that's all well and good for these basic actions, but there are 3 actions over here during the Merry Man phase which are special, and you can only do them if you've used an active card to unlock them. Now, the first of that is to build a trap. When you build a trap, you're going to put a trap again in one of these basic areas, and each area has got a different cost in resources you must spend. You'll then take a trap from your board and put it in the first available spot in a hideout that is empty. You cannot have any guards in there yet when you do that. Also, you can build barricades by unlocking that with an active card. For barricades, you can put them on again on one of the 4 different roads. They all have their own different costs and resources, and they all cost 1 money, and that 1 money gets to get put on a road of your choice in order to prevent a road from emptying, because that's one of the ways, as we said, for us to lose the game. Now, when you build your barricades and your traps, you're going to unlock income at the beginning of each round. And if ever you build the 5th of either of them, you're going to unlock this space, which will give you access to 4 merry men to place each round. The final action over there is to send an envoy out to King Richard in the Crusades. Now, it's going to be expensive, costing you dice and money and resources. But in doing so, it's going to score you some endgame points, and it's also going to unlock one of these endgame scoring cards. You get dealt 3 at the beginning of the game. They're going to score you points for clearing guards from areas and having certain amounts of money on roads or having built certain things. And you can't score them unless you've got envoys. The number of envoys over there is the number of cards you're going to score, and you can have a maximum of 3 envoys. Now, as well as doing that and unlocking those endgame scoring, each trap and barricade and envoy that you have managed to create is going to score you a certain number of points at the end of the game. But that number of points is going to be set on your reputation level, and your reputation is going to get pushed up during the next phase of the game. Because once everyone has placed all their followers out, we're going to move on and we get to the hero phase, where you get to use your hero and their special power. Now, first thing that happens here is each player is going to do a draft and take these weapons dice. They're the same in terms of 4 successes, 2 fails, and each of them that got different colours, because you can use different colours for different actions on this board. Once we've done that quick draft, then each player is going to take 2 actions with their hero. First thing you can do before that, though, is you're going to draw these villain cards. Now, these villain cards is how the game is going to fight back against you and generate the fact that we can possibly lose. Now, when you do draw a villain card, and there's one drawn at the beginning of each hero's activation, so after the dice are drawn, you're going to look at it and you're going to do all of the actions which are listed on there. But for this purpose at the moment, we're just going to break them down into the constituent parts. So just try follow along with that. So the first thing that could happen is you may have to put a guard into play, and it will say where. So in this case, this guard goes into play in the monastery. You check and see where the next hideout is, and you put that guard into the next hideout. That's no bother. This guard wants to get put into the forge. Now, when it goes into the next hideout, there's a merry man waiting there, which means this merry man is arrested, but has not yet been sent to prison. When that happens to you, you must put 1 resource next to that merry man, and that's now in hock. If you can rescue that merry man, they won't go to prison, and we'll see how we're going to do that. This guard wants to go into the forest, but the next open space has got a trap, meaning this player, in this case me, gets to capture this guard and put them on their board. That guard can be ransomed at the end of a round, and several guards can score you several points, 3, 7 or 12 for 1, 2 or 3, or get you a certain collection of resources. And this trap comes off the board, but doesn't go back on my board. It's still going to score me points at the end of the game because it was activated. Now, if these cards ever send a guard into a space that's completely full, there's no room in the hideouts, it's full of guards, those guards are going to go across, and that's the other way we can lose the game. They're going to start filling up this village track, and as I said, if it ever gets completely full, then we're going to lose. So guards can get put on the board via these cards. The next thing that can happen is that these 3 villains can be put into play. The first of them is the Sheriff of Nottingham. The Sheriff of Nottingham will go to an area, and the Sheriff of Nottingham will always bring 2 guards with them, and they will fill up as normal for traps and arresting all the rest of it. And if it's full, as it is here at the forge, these guards will also go across here, causing us a headache. Now, the next 2 villains is how we're going to interact with the roads and the villages. Guy of Gisborne, when he goes across to a road, destroys the barricade that's been built that's nearest to the castle. And there's always one printed barricade on the board. So this barricade comes off. Again, it still will count for scoring for that player. We're going to check then and see if there's any barricade in front of this carriage. There is not, so this carriage will make it all the way back into the castle. And we're going to take pennies off there according to what slot that goes in. And it's going to fill up that grid, and then we'll just draw a carriage of another colour to join back in on this road. Now, Prince John himself also goes over to roads, but does things slightly differently. When Prince John goes to a road, in this case he's going to the East Road, he takes pennies from there equal to the number of barricades that have been built, including the one on the board, and that's how he's going to help to shrink down all the pennies in this pile, again accelerating our defeat. The final thing that can happen on these villain cards is that carriages themselves can be activated. They'll skip over the next barricade, and again, if there's no barricades between them and the castle, they'll go in, they'll finish off, and they'll take money, and it'll all be very troublesome for all of us. So we better start fighting back. What can we do with our heroes? So the first thing we can do is we can go and fight a carriage. Now, if we want to go and fight a carriage, we must have 2 dice of the relevant colour. In this case, it's 2 orange dice. And we take the action and we roll them. And we're looking to get at least 1 success. That's 2. And we would defeat this carriage. When you defeat a carriage, the dice go back into the weapon storage over there. You also, that's the first way you can gain reputation, pushing up those points. And the other thing you get to do is you get to take this and pull it down here, but it lays flat like that. And again, another carriage will be drawn. And anyone who built any barricades in that road will score 2 points per barricade that has been built. The next thing you can do is you can fight guards at a site. Now, you can fight guards at any site by going there and rolling the relevant dice. If you come to a site where there's a villain, you have to spend one of these booze distraction tokens, otherwise you can't go there. And you can fight guards that have got your merry men arrested. If you fight them, you roll the relevant dice. If you get any successes, you kick out the guard and you get your resource back. If you don't kick out that guard and you don't get your resource back, you choose to do something else. At the end of the round, this merry man is going to get arrested and go into prison, and each prisoner is going to go up a level from that prison. And they will score you minus points at the end of the game, and also it can leave you short of actions if you don't rescue them. So we can break out prisoners. When you come over here to break out prisoners, you must spend distraction tokens. Number of distraction tokens you spend, each of them will give you 2 of these skill dice. You then roll these skill dice, and the number of successes you get tells you how successful you are at breaking out prisoners. For these 2 successes, I could rescue 2 level 1 prisoners or 1 level 2 prisoner. In this case, I'll take this prisoner away. That's going to score me points more than its level, 1 more than its level, and it will come back to me over here in my training grounds. I also get to steal some of the sheriff's stash over here on my way out of the castle, and again, it will prevent me from getting those minus points at the end of the game. If I had come over here and fought this guard and rescued another player's merry man, they'd get it back, and I would score 1 point for doing that. Now, those actions cost weapons dice. During this heroes phase, I can go over here and I can spend resources to claim more weapons dice in order to enable me to do more of these actions. There's a couple more things we can do. We can go and take part in an archery competition. When we come over here, we go to the first level archery competition, in which we roll 3 skill dice and we're trying to get 1 success. And then we go down to the next level. If we've been successful, we roll 3. We're trying to get 2 successes. I failed there, so I just get the basic 1 coin reward. Now, why am I interested in getting coins? Because the last thing I can do during this hero phase is come over here and give back to the poor. In this case, I can spend money, and for every 2 money I spend, I can take 1 guard out of here, and for every guard I take out of there, I'm going to score myself 2 points. Once each player has drawn 1 villain card and taken 2 actions, we're going to move back on to the next merry man phase, which will allow us to take back all our workers, go back out again, go to the areas that are open, play these cards. I'm going to carry on through, hopefully not losing from the pennies and the guards, and get to the end of the 5th round. And at the end of that 5th round, we're going to score points for our traps and barricades built according to where we're on reputation track, and envoys. Envoys will unlock those King Richard cards. We'll score a few points for our possessions and any guards that we haven't put back into Hock. Our passive cards will score on them, and then that set collection for the different types of art. And these prisoners will cost us a couple of points. Whoever has scored the most points after tallying all of that up will be the winner of Robin Hood and the Merry Men. This has been a Game Pit Stop. For more videos like this, check out our YouTube channel. For more in-depth coverage of gaming, please check out the Game Pit podcast. Thank you.